Hi, I'm Robbie Toll from Greenvale at Cressy. We're just doing some filming here for the red meat updates, and hopefully you'll see 12 months in half an hour. So sit back and enjoy. So the total area of Greenvale is 560 hectares. So long-term average rainfall's sitting around that 680 millimetres. Soil types are predominantly heavy black cracking soils, running up to some lighter sandier knobs in places, which is a challenging exercise under some of these irrigators with varying soil types. Greenvale was purchased by my great-grandfather, and they came out here in 1957 to just a little cottage, and from there they built a permanent house, which is now the main house, which has been added to many of times. It was predominantly crossbred sheep with a few cows, some irrigation. That was all flood irrigation. They flooded out of the creek beside us, and they could actually get water to the very bottom of the farm. So the history of irrigation on Greenvale has been quite long, but over time has changed dramatically. So I came home in '99, but prior to that I finished up school at grammar in '92. I did 12 months home with Dad, and then I did 15 months at Carrick at Robbie Dent's in the sea cleaning operation over there. I had 12 months then in Canterbury Plains in New Zealand, working on a livestock operation over there. I then had 2 years at Glenormiston Ag College, followed by 12 months on a big cropping and beef feedlot operation in Western Australia. So after returning home in 1999, we were predominantly, there was no irrigation other than a little bit of flood irrigation, minimal cropping, all dry land, still running a couple of thousand crossbred ewes and cattle. At that stage, the poppy industry was starting to boom, so we knew we had to get into that industry. So we drew our first dry land crop, went reasonably well, and from there we ventured into some further irrigation, which was a hard hose, and from there we ventured into obviously centre pivot irrigators, and now we're pretty much fully developed with 9 fixed pivots, covering a total area of 265 hectares and 31 hectares under travellers, with then 260 odd hectares of dry land. So on the cropping side of things, things have developed quite a lot in the last 10 years, from predominantly dry land, feedable cereals, to now we're pretty well running or cropping 100 hectares of peas, up to 20 hectares of seed potatoes per year. Clover's now become an important part in our operation, and around that 70 odd hectares of poppies also. Their livestock is it's changed a lot over the years, but it's sort of plateaued around that 1,500 breeding ewes, crossbred ewes, and now we're trading up to 10 to 12,000 lambs per year. Okay, back in 2002 we decided to take part in the benchmarking program through Holmes and Sackett, which was something very new to us. I had long been home from Ag College, so I suppose I was very interested in seeing some of those numbers a little bit more. And so we joined that group. There was probably around 15 to start with in there, and there's pretty well still 15 there. There's a few come and go, but the core group is still there. And it really did open our eyes to our business. Rather than us just being out in the paddock, we could sit back and analyse what was actually happening in the office. It showed us our true cost of production and also our returns. And I think to some degree it just confirmed our gut feel of a few enterprises. We knew some weren't really performing. We sort of knew cattle wasn't, their cow-calf operation wasn't really working. Some of our cereals that we were doing dry land, you sort of know you weren't making much, but when you see it in black and white, well actually there's a fair bit of red, in front of you, it just made that decision to put a line through that enterprise very easy. There was no questions, I might give another go for another year. When you've got 2 or 3 years worth of data and there's red consistently each year, or not enough in that enterprise to worthwhile, it's much easier to make that decision that, right, I'm out and I'm going to change. So after 3 or 4 years of doing that, there were some pretty dramatic changes that took place, and there was the cow-calf operation went, a lot of dryland cereals, there was a few little niche seed crops that were starting to do, there were small areas. And when you really look at the labour that goes into them, into 2 or 3 hectares, and the return you get, it just wasn't worthwhile. And they came at a distraction to us. It wasn't where we wanted to go. So coming from probably up to 10 enterprises, we're down now to 5 core enterprises. That's been peas, poppies, potatoes, prime lambs, and now we're actually dabbling a little bit of clover, which I think will become an important part in our operation, and it also blends very well in with our prime lamb enterprise. So now we've got we've got a very good understanding of our cost of production and where we're generating good income. We can sort of really drill down into those enterprises and see where there's some hidden costs are, where our labour costs are, why are overheads so high, and what can we do about them. So now we're sort of finding that we're just trying to fine-tune those enterprises as much as we can to get the costs out as much as we can, but also increase our returns. And it's very hard with the industry we work in over here to get a fixed rotations with changing area each year. Some areas with peas, we might have X amount of hectares this year, the following year it may be reduced, and it's the same with a poppy job. We're not sort of guaranteed X amount of area per year, so we've got to be flexible, and that's where we find that trading operation, even with our cropping, allows us to be very flexible to mix and max our area of crop that we get with our livestock operation. There were many enterprises in our systems at the beginning of our benchmarking 12 years ago. And since then we've been through several significant enterprise changes. Originally a first cross ewe base, then shifted into a self-replacing Coopworth flock, then into an intensive cropping program, which also led into a cattle trading enterprise run alongside or with our cropping program. In 2010 we changed to a land trading enterprise, which resulted in a dramatic drop in ewe breeding numbers and also no cattle. Some of the reasons behind these changes in enterprises came from benchmarking data, soil structure assessment, and also an attempt to maximise labour resources and also to have a sustainable and profitable operation. We found that benchmarking data on its own only tells part of the story. Cattle trading is a very profitable operation, but these figures don't always show the true cost. Soil structure issues, a reduction in crop production following cattle had been seen. After large amounts of research and discussions with various people, we began our lamb trading operation, which has now grown to be a major part of our business, which complements our cropping program. So this is just a quick graph that shows our DSE rate per month per enterprise throughout the whole season. So as you can see there, the prime lambs are in the green. We're peaking there in sort of mid-August, which should be full lactating of ewes. The highest DSE with their number of lambs on hand. Then we obviously drop off throughout the season as weaning processes. And then we've got our trading operation over the top of that, and so it shows there we've consistently got lambs within the system that we're trading throughout the whole year, and we're peaking well above 30 DSE in that mid-Feb through to April, and then obviously dropping off towards into June as our growth rates drop off as well. So just looking through some of our data there for our lamb operation, for our prime lambs. The 5-year average is of the cost of production is $3.81, and the price received is $5.33. So we've got good little margin in there to cover any ups in sizing costs, and also if that price falls, we've got a little bit of a margin there. It'd be nice to see a little bit more, but at this stage we've probably just got enough fat in there to keep us in with a good ewe flock. So just flicking over to our trading operation, they don't exactly give it to us in the exact same figures as our prime lambs, but our price paid per kilo on our 5-year average is $2.26, and our price received of per live weight, this is $2.40, so which gives us around that $39 trading margin per lamb that comes and goes on the place, which which I'm happy with. To be certainly to be averaging that is quite good. So some of our key principles we use within a business is record and measure, try to work smarter, not always harder, and to maximise their enterprise profitability. For work smarter, it's sometimes quite easy to just bog yourself down and think you just need to work harder, but sometimes you need to stand back and just look, can I do things easier or smarter? And that can be quite things as simple as having laneways, right up to the latest in technology as GPS, auto steer, variable rate control implements. So it can vary over a wide range of levels of how you want to work smarter. Come down to stock handling facilities. There's lots of good implements out there now and a handling gear that allows you to work stock smarter. Also use outside expertise and advice. The neighbours, the agronomists that you may use within your business, stock assessment and marketing, financial advice for maximising your business returns and for the year-to-year planning. One very important one is session planning. Need to get plenty of advice there. And also your CRT local bloke. As you can see here, lambs have been processed through a VE machine. We purchased this approximately 4 years ago to try and eliminate work that we need to do up a race. As you can see, Pete and Mon here are processing these lambs, and a considerable reduced amount of effort is required, and there's a lot less stress on the handler and also our animal. The drafting machine and weighing machine we have here, we purchased close on 8 years ago now. It's fully 100% automatic with no remotes. It's a 3-way drafts, so it allows us to put lambs in up to 3 different weight groups. All lambs are weighed before they go on a truck, so there's not one lamb that hasn't gone over these scales before it goes on that truck, so we know it should come within the grid. And on average, each lamb's probably weighed 3 times. And it allows us also to collect information on weight gains. The race well we've purchased solely for crutching in. It has the potential to weigh and draft, but at this stage we're solely using it for crutching. We haven't pulled a lamb over the crutching board now through the shearing shed for 4 years. It greatly reduces the physical work and stress on both handler and also the animal. The electro dip would be one of the best implements I've bought. We use it solely for fly control, but we also have the added advantage of suppressing the possible lice issue that we may have because of so many lambs that we buy in each year. It's very efficient in the number of lambs we can put through per hour, and we have effectively eliminated fly from our operation. Then we're also using contractors in areas which are very specialised in bed forming, in potato harvesting and planting, drilling, and also baling of any silage or hay. We're not doing any of that work ourselves. It seems a little bit too specialised for us. With the outside advice, I try and get as much information as I can around what I'm trying to sort out, and that might be from neighbours or from an agronomist or from someone that may be an expert in that field, but it's me gathering information and then decipher that information and see if it fits within our business to see if that will work for us. So I'm not actually just using those people to tell me what to do. I'm using them to gather information and put all that together to see how it'll help myself and our business. So with the recorder and measuring systems we have in place, we try and record as much as possible, and one of them has been feed availability, so a feed budget, our grazing management systems, where we've put sheep at what times of the year and what paddocks, feed tests of different supplement feeds that we may put out to use our lambs throughout the year. We record all our pregnancy scanning rates. So we record our feed tests, results from our supplement feeds we may supply to livestock throughout the year. And also we've done tests of dry matter that's growing, that was standing at the time, so we know what energy and protein is going into those animals. We record all our data from our pregnancy scanning. We scan right through to twins and singles, early and lates, and pull all them out and record all that information. We record a lot of data from our lamb weighing, so we know weight gains on particular paddocks on different crops to give us some idea of where we're going to go, where we're going to be, and allow us to do some budgeting from lambs we're going to turn off. We record everything on a farm mapping program, and also one very important one is we're benchmarking, so there's a lot of data recorded there from within our business. So feed budgeting really started back in around 2005 when we started to trading a lot more cattle. I got Peter Ball from the department to come out and really get a setup of how we cut, how we dry it, and we're doing it all ourselves. So we're cutting our quadrangles ourselves, taking it back to the microwave, drying it, weighing it, doing our calculations ourselves. And we did that for 2 or 3 years to really get a good understanding of how much dry matter was there, how much was stock eating, when we peaked in growth rates of pasture dry matter per month, when they were dropping off, where they plateaued and where they started to go again. So over a couple of years we got a pretty good indication or a gauge of when things were peaking and dropping off, which really helped us adjust our stocking rate to those months, and it allowed us to budget, knowing full well that we're going to have X amount of dry matter in this month. We can forward plan when those cattle, at that stage, when those cattle come on board, and that's obviously flowed through to our lamb operation now, of knowing that if we sow a winter feed at the end of January, in 5 weeks' time we're going to be grazing and we're going to have 2,500 kilos of dry matter there standing, and it's going to continue to grow at 50, 60 kilos for the next month. It's pretty basic maths then to work out how much stock you need and have it there ready to go. We treat our brassicas and our clovers and our grass like a crop, to try and produce as much dry matter as we possibly can, and then turn that into kilos of lambs. Myself being time poor at times of the year, we approached TP Jones, myself and a neighbour, to see whether they'd be interested in doing some pasture monitoring for us and recording, just so that I knew it was going to happen at the start of each month and that it didn't get forgotten about and it didn't happen at the right time. So TP Jones now have an agronomist coming out here once a month to pasture monitor availability of what we have of all our crops, just not our pasture, but our brassicas, our lucernes, our clovers, and putting this data into the spreadsheet and just emailing that to me, which then it's much quicker for me than just to whip in there, put our stock numbers in and make any adjustments I need to do. So at this stage it's a very good service. So then we put all that data in, and then we can also put our different classes of livestock in there as well as we go. So obviously lambs, at a 35 kilos, I've got a different DSC rating to a lamb at say 50 kilos, so obviously got a different feed consumption per day of dry matter. So I've got all that in there, different columns. Obviously you again is going to be different. So we're there and we put all our stock numbers in each paddock, and then it calculates across to virtually tell us how long those sheep are going to be able to last in that paddock for, or what's going to be left in that paddock after a certain amount of time. And then down the very bottom of the screen it also gives us a total amount of feed, surplus or deficit at the end of the selected time period we want, which I'm just doing it on a per month basis. But obviously if you wanted to do it for a long-term feed budget over 2 or 3 months, well, you can just alter those dates. And then as we're going now, as we're gathering this data over each month, we're actually plotting that data with available feed to stock on hand. So hopefully over time we can see the differences in available feed we might have. So if our feed peaks and we're obviously underneath that with our stocking rate, next year hopefully we might be able to say, well, come into this month, last year we had surplus feed there, can we lift our rate a little bit there and utilise that a bit more? So, and obviously vice versa as well. So our grazing systems, we don't have any really fixed grazing system in place. We alternate between probably all three throughout the year at different times, to suit what livestock enterprise we have and what's available. So most of the ewes, all the ewes are set stocked at lambing. We try not get any more than 10 ewes per hectare. On the bigger paddocks it's always even nice to get less than that. We seem to find those big paddocks, they find their favourite spot, and it seems to be always in one corner, and they all they all get down in that corner, and we have a huge amount of lambs and issues there. So it does depend on the shape and the way that paddock is laying. After that, they are rotational grazed round paddocks and also set stocked. After weaning, those ewes are virtually set stocked over the back on some sort of runny sort of country, and they stay there until mating, and then into the autumn, I suppose they really just used as a clean up tool to clean paddocks up and stubbles. Each year we test our silage, and this particular one here is a wheat ryegrass mix. We have a sample taken, we send that away just to really know what we're feeding those, or supplementing feeding our sheep or lambs throughout the winter. To me, that's a pretty sort of handy sort of feed test for supplementing lambs throughout the winter when things get a little bit tight, but also to use if we need to prior to lambing, because we're lambing in the virtually the end of June. We need to grow what those sheep are going to go onto for lambing. We need to grow in that autumn. So if we have a bit of a tight pinch and we need to shut some paddocks up for a bit longer, we can pull some ewes onto this, what I believe is good quality silage, and really keep them in prime condition for lambing. So we use a mapping program and a recording program called Endeavour, which is quite old. We've got about 15 years worth of data on here now. So it's an aerial photo on here with all the paddocks outlaid, and we can bring up all the history. So one particular paddock there, we can go right back to 2001. So everything we've done in that paddock, from spraying, fertiliser, crops, yields, income, costs, all the way through. So it's a quick way to get information back, look back through history and find what we've done in that paddock. So maximising enterprise profitability covers a range of things, and that's trying to pull unnecessary costs out of that enterprise, and that comes back to knowing your cost of production, pushing that enterprise to its limit, reducing our labour inputs, but also one important one is taking advantage of market conditions. But in many cases it also goes back to working smarter. You're committed, we're dropping out of one reasonable size enterprise of 300 cattle. We have to replace them with another enterprise, so we just couldn't say, well, we're just going to dabble in lambs. We'll do 1,000 lambs for the first year and see how it goes. That was bang 5,000 straight up into something we sort of hadn't done before. So it was committing ourselves, writing out the lows, just fine-tuning things as we went. There's always things you can't prepare for, and learning from your mistakes and just making sure you don't do them again. The maximum amount of lambs we'd have on the place any one time was we sort of peak around that 4,000, and that's that sort of late summer when we were maximising brassicas and also lucerne, and then they'll drop off coming into the autumn, into the winter as our dry matter production decreases. The criteria of a lamb we have in place is obviously we prefer a second cross lamb if we can get it, but a very well bred first cross lamb will also do a very good job for us. We have a criteria that their feet must be clean. That is the first question I always ask if we're buying from a new place. It must be between a certain weight range, and we prefer that lamb to be between 32 and 39 kilos, so trying to hit that 35 to 36 kilos average live weight. We'd also do buy outside those weight specs depending on feed availability and also time of the year, but the majority of lambs will be coming in at 36 kilos. Those lambs will be going out on average of 50 kilos, so 14 kilos live weight gain on average on a lamb. One key principle I think that makes this operation quite successful is that we're buying and selling on the same market pretty well all year round. So what I mean by that is we buy one load of lambs, but virtually at the same time we're selling another. So we're buying and selling on the same market price, which reduces our risk. So we tend to try and source our lambs from regular breeders that supply us. That gives us many advantages. One being we know that lamb, we know its history, how it's been bred, we know its health status. It also gives us the advantage of being able to draft those lambs into the weight groups we want and bring them direct from that producer to our place, which reduces animal stress and also ultimately reduces in a better product coming to us. So when that lamb arrives here, it's normally unloaded into a small holding paddock, 4 or 5 hectares, where they can normally settle down there for 24 hours. They're brought back into the yards where everything that comes through the yard is footbathed. They get a introduction drench, 3-way combination drench, a B12, and if they haven't already had their vaccination booster, they'll get another 5-in-1. Then, depending on the feed they're going on to, they may even go back into another smaller paddock where they've just left there for a bit longer, just to fill their tummy up and to adjust to the feed up here before they're introduced into a greener, sort of a higher protein energy diet. Right, so here we've got a product which we're putting in the grain. It's called Restrict. It's a pink powder that we mix in with the grain that limits the amount of grain that the lambs wish to eat. It's of a bitter sort of taste, so the lambs want to eat the grain, but it's not all that nice, so they have a little bit, then they go away, have a drink or another feed, then they come back and decide, yeah, I really do want some more grain, so they come back and a bit more of a nibble. Then the bitterness of the Restrict sort of puts them off again, so we can limit how much they take by how much of the product we put in. So the more product we put in, the less grain they'll eat. So at the moment we're putting in about 30 kilos per bag of barley, of bulker bags. It's around 700 kilos in a bulker bag, and that's generally giving us around, if we've got ample dry matter in front of them in the paddock, around that 150 to 200 grams a day. So lambs are held or run on those pastures or crop type and managed differently. Some are set stocks, some are rotationally grazed, and some have a combination of everything. From there they're put into weight groups, and then they're brought back at various times to be weighed. After weighing, they're also then kept into more weight groups, pull them into tighter groups. So that when we need lambs ready to go, we can just go to a Pacific paddock and say we know there's lambs in there between 40 and 50 kilos, or so quite often a lot tighter than that, 45 to 50 kilos. We're allowed to pull them back in, weigh them, get the line of lambs we need, or the ones that are ready. Those lambs will always go back to that same paddock, and where they'll stay there until they're fit to go, or until we've got some room for them at the abattoirs. From there, before they go, they come directly up to the yards where they'll be crutched. So every lamb only gets crutched once, and that's just before it goes on the truck, and then they're curfewed for a minimum of 12 hours before they're picked up. We have a constant supply of lambs coming in and also going out, and Mark Webb from Webb and Woody Wiss play a very important role, or a critical role within our business to be able to do that. At a guess off the top of my head, 90% or probably a bit more of the lambs that come on this place I don't see until they turn up here. So it's critical that I have a huge amount of trust within Mark to make sure the right lambs come here on the place. If the wrong lambs come in, they take 2 or 3 weeks longer to go out. So that's costing me money, but it's also costing Mark money as well. So it's critical that the right lamb comes in, and we have a very tight specification or checklist of lambs that we want to come in. And also going out, that when those lambs are ready, that they go out in a tight period of time. And I try and give Mark as much notice as I can when lambs are ready, but at the peak time when things are really steaming, lambs sneak up onto you. So sometimes I might only give Mark a week's notice that those lambs really need to go. And if they can't go and they've got to hang about, well, those lambs are consuming more feed. They may go outside specifications, which obviously cost us money, but it's also less lambs that can come in. Yeah, no, weight gains have been good this year. I'd say we've been 300 plus on all our feed sources this year. Yeah, look, it's a combination of just having a really good season, I reckon. Yeah. Grass has grown well, the clover's done exceptionally well. Yep. Brassicas have done really, really well this year. Yeah. So probably a combination of us, a bit more attention to nitrogen requirements. Yep. We've put a bit more of that on this year, and that's come through in the lambs. All the lambs are on grain. There's a supplement of grain and also a dry feed lick supplement as well, and that's showing up in the lamb. So Leanne, here's another product we're using for our lambs. It's called Weather Pro, and it's a product, it's all its minerals and trace elements we give to the lambs. So we're actually putting that in lick feeder as well, and that's ab lib. So they can get access to that whenever they want. And we're finding we're putting lambs specifically onto clover or lucerne in particular. There's quite a high user of this product. Lucerne doesn't hold a lot of minerals in its leaf, so we're finding we're getting very high usage of this Weather Pro that the lambs are on lucerne.
So yeah, a role I would play within the business once the lambs have been sourced, once Rob has them ready and weighed up, is to have them moved in a respectable period of time before they blow outside specifications. And those specifications are generally fairly tight, whether it be the supermarket trade or the export. If I can't get these lambs away in that required time space and the lambs blow out in weight and fat score, you can be looking at deductions of anywhere between 20 and 50 cents a kilo. So given an average lamb could weigh 22.5, 23 kilos, those deductions could be anywhere between $5 and $8 a lamb.
We're here again at the cattle yards. We just had 580 lambs come in. This is early February, and we've actually today got 520 lambs going out. So it's quite often how it happens. One load lambs in and another load straight back out. These lambs here are about to be loaded have probably been in place roughly around that 8 to 10 weeks. They're averaging 51 kilos live weight when we weighed up last week, and so they're destined for the export job at JBS Longford.
Yeah, hi, my name's Matthew Bosworth. I'm the livestock manager for JBS in Tasmania. Yesterday I had a load of Robbie's lambs, 520 lambs, came in to be processed today at our Longford plant today. They've come through pretty well ideal in the spec we're after. We're at the moment chasing an 18 to 26 kilo lamb. Robbie's have so far coming through at about 24 kilo average, so pretty well ideal where we'd like them. Maybe sort of a kilo lighter would be ideal, but yeah, he's pretty well in the slot where we're chasing our lambs. Most of our lambs at present are ending in the domestic market out of Longford, which is probably an indication of our 18 to 26 kilo weight bracket. So fat score lambs, yeah, majority 2, 3s and 4s, are a handful of 5 scores in them, which could be an indication that maybe if you had sold around that 23 kilos might have got that fat score down a little bit. But yeah, other than that, no, they're a pretty good line of lambs, and very hard to get a mob of 520 100% spot on. So I think Robbie overall's done a great job with his lambs.
So in conclusion to our virtual farm tour over Green Vale over the last 9 months, just a couple of key take-home messages that I believe are important to our operation, and they are: know your cost of production. So you need to know what it costs you to produce a kilo of lamb. Do it well and do it once. So take that little bit extra time or spend that little bit extra money and get it done properly. Timing is everything. If that's in the terms of sowing brassicas or sowing crops for your livestock production or for spraying, whatever it is, it's critically important. Monitor what you can and act if necessary. But probably most importantly is to enjoy what you do.